Hi, so this is Clay from Distracted, and I'm making this video because my friend Rollin was requesting a video on how to get started with FL Studio, so here I'm going to show you how, and it's not going to be the most professional video because I'm kind of winging it here, and I don't really have a plan, but let's just go. So here's the thing that you should start at, or let's just exit everything out. So here you have nothing, and these buttons right here are really important. So this one brings you up to the playlist where you can map out your song. You might be familiar with that if you've used this, like messed around. This one is the pattern selection screen, and this lets you put your instruments in here, and you can also make like notes and stuff. But I'll get into all that later. This is the piano roll. This is where you actually put down the notes. This button right here brings up this sidebar where you can find various drum samples and stuff, but I'll get into that later. And this is the master channel where you can link stuff to and get effects and stuff. And also various other things for like volume knobs and like side chaining and such. So I'll just go through all the buttons up here. So this is the undo button. This is the save as button, which you can find somewhere else. This is when you want to put it as an audio file, which you can also find in the file section. These are all just kind of less used buttons. And you can find all this here. See new from template, open, save as, save new version, import, export, and then those are recent projects. And edit, you don't really need to use edit. Channels, this is important. So if you got like a VST from a different website, other than like ImageLine, of course. See, I have like Nexus and Massive here. You want to find these to put these in. You have to go to add one and then more. And once it's in the right folder, you can press refresh, and then you just click the one that you want, and it should show up as red, but you can look at different videos because there's tons of videos out there that show you how to do that. And this shows you what you want to view. And if you look, yeah, you can arrange the windows in a different way. I'm always at default though, so it makes it easier to see. Options, you can go to the different MIDI settings if you have like a keyboard. Audio, you want to be on, okay, so for audio, you want to be on ACO for all if you're recording stuff, but you mainly want to be on primary sound driver so you can actually hear what you're doing. And I've had many friends complain about this, and they think their like FL Studio is not working, and it just turns out they're on the wrong driver. So make sure you're on primary sound driver. You don't really have to mess with all this. General, which you can also find by just scrolling through here. So general, you can just look through these and check what you want. File, kind of pointless. Debug, you don't really need to look at. And so also here is project. So project info, you can find how long you've spent on this file. And I've already spent 6 minutes because I just opened this. And also general, which is some other stuff. And you can write stuff here. So like if you're at the title, you can write all this and like everything. And then once you open up the project, then this stuff will just pop up. So if you want to say like which key signature is in or like the BPM, so you don't forget about that. Tools, I'm not really going to go into that in this video, but you can mess around with those. And this is the master volume. You can do all this. If you left click on this and then drag it, you can raise it, but you want to typically have it at the normal, so just right click and press reset. And same with the pitch. If you want to, you can do a really bad thing where like you rise it like that, but you want to just reset that to normal again. And so here is this. This is the playback button, or as I call it, it's like the pattern in song mode. And so when you press play, at the moment it's playing through the pattern. So I can show you right here. I'll make a pattern, just basic 4 kicks. And I'll put one also right there just to show you. So right now it's playing through the pattern because it's red. And you can see this one's moving. But if I go to the song, it's playing there too. So pattern only goes in this, song goes in this, and any patterns that are currently in there. So if you want to look over like all this stuff, I don't know. I'm just showing you an example. I'll show you some more stuff later. So yeah, that's what that is. Stop just stops when it's playing. See, you can just stop it. Record, I'm not going to get into in this video because it's kind of complicated. Tempo, this you just slide, you left click and then drag up and down to change the tempo. And I'll just be at 128 for this video, just, I don't know, I feel like it. You can also do like those if you want, but I don't feel like messing with that. And also, if you ever see like these windows pop up, it's just a right click, it's pretty simple. Pattern, so say I'm on pattern 1 and I put it there. Now how do I get to the other patterns? There's one way to do it. It's by scrolling up and down. So I can place pattern 2 there, pattern 5 there if I wanted to, but you don't really have to. I mean, you could. This gets useful later. And these buttons, I typically just have these at how it is. I don't really know what most of these do, and you don't really need them. A metronome, that's kind of useful if you're like doing some like live recording stuff, so you can mess around with that, I guess. I don't know. And this is all you don't really need. This is just some information on FL Studio. And here, this is important. So I'll place a basic, this pattern one right here. So this pencil one, it lets you move around one pattern at a time. And also it's a lot more precise. See, like if I'm holding down left click, and then if I move to the right, I don't know why I just learned that, because I guess I was pressing down on it too long. But if you drag to the right, then it's the same. See, it just only places one. And so the paintbrush is if you want to place multiple of these. You just hold it down and then drag to the right, and it makes tons of them. And to delete these, what you have to do is right click, and then you just drag over, and then it deletes them, in case you're wondering. Delete, you can also just use that button, but right clicking is a lot easier. Mute, which mutes it, that's kind of pointless, because you can just do something else, which I'll show you in a bit. Slip, I am not really sure what it is. I don't use slip that often, and I've been making FL Studio songs for a while. Slice I use a lot. Slice, what you want to do, you can just drag up, and then it cuts the pattern into two, which is pretty useful. And also for slice, you want to make sure you're going up and down to get the best measurements, because, hold on here, you can also slice like that, and it slices in like a really weird spot. Like, look at that. You don't really need that. And then, so this select tool, this I used to use a lot, but then I realized there's a shortcut for this that helps out, which I'm going to tell you guys. It's hold down Control and then left click, and then it selects for you. This could speed up your songs a lot. It really helps out. Yeah, and I'll be showing all like the hotkeys and stuff. And so zoom, there's also another method to do that zoom, which I actually don't like zoom that much, because I always accidentally click it and it screws me up. And playback, there's also another shortcut for this. It just plays whichever thing is right there. I think it's like Alt left click is playback. So in case you're looking at like a certain part of the song, you have multiple layers, you can hear how that sounds. And so this menu, you can go to many things. This is still for this. So if you look, we're still on, this is just connected right here. And so this button, edit, you can just do these things, if you want. And then tools, yeah, you can just look through these. And then view, I have a different grid color if you noticed. I would use the custom colors that are currently in here, because they actually look pretty well for FL Studio. And normally it's like this darkish blue color, like kind of grayish, but I got kind of sick. I got really sick of that, so I changed it to this. And I think this looks nicer personally. And you can also invert grid, do some other random stuff. I would turn all the settings that I have right here on for this. Snap, so this is important. So currently, this snaps, if you see I'm dragging this, it snaps to every quarter beat, or every I guess quarter beat, I don't know. I'm not thinking right. And then there's also a quicker thing, like snap was there, but also snap is right here, because it's a shortcut, because you kind of switch this often. And you can go to snap half step, which is half the size, twice as much options as the one before. And then I can go to a quarter step, which is even more. And then I can also go to none, which is a ton. And you can, oh yeah, if you were wondering, Control and scroll is zoom, in case you were wondering. And then Alt scroll is change the size of the tracks. And Shift scroll is, it changes the position of this. So you can just scroll this forward or backwards. So I also, instead of going to none all the time, you can just press Alt and then left click down. You can just drag it really fast like that. And so, give me a second. Alright, so next up on the list is select. You don't really need to look at that. Group, which I guess just groups patterns together. Zoom, there's much easier ways to zoom than that. Time markers, this I actually use kind of often, because I collaborate with one of my friends. And what you want to do is add one, and you can just say like, needs more bass here. And in the song, you can just drag this to the part that needs more bass, I guess. And you can just write like anything you want. And then once it's here, then the bar extends, so you can just right click and do add marker. And you can just kind of do whatever you want with that, I guess. So I'm going to delete that. And then performance mode is something really confusing, so I won't get into that. Current clip score, I don't know. Or source, I don't know. And then center, I don't know what that is. I guess it just centers it. And detached. So next up on the list is, I guess, the pattern thing. So as you saw here, I'll just delete that so you can see this. So as you saw here, this is just basic kicks, and you can just have your pattern here and then just place it there. And I can just make like a melody like that. These are just the default ones that come with it once you open up an FL Studio file. And on this thing, you don't really want to mess with this. Like when I first had FL Studio, I didn't know what the piano roll was, so I always did this, and this is really inefficient for doing piano stuff. And same with this, there's much easier ways. And what this does, it repeats the step sequencer, so it's just like if you have longer bars, it just like repeats it over. I'm going to try to give an example of that right here. So I'm in the piano roll right now, which I probably should have gotten into, which I will do right now. Yeah, this one my friend knows more about, so you don't really need that. And this extends it, so it's currently at dash dash, which means it's like 4 of these. And so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. And what this does, it repeats like that. And then 4. You can go all the way to like 64 if you want. I don't even know. And then I just always go to dash dash, which is pretty much the default one. And so here, if you click on pattern 1, you can rename this pattern. And if you rename it, you can just do like drums. And then if you click on this, it brings up, you can choose which color you want. Or you can just right click on this and it chooses a random color, which I kind of find useful. And then press enter once you're done. And then it changes it on the pattern place, not the pattern place, the playlist. It also changes it there too, so you can label your stuff and be organized. Or you don't have to, but. So next I'm going to show you how to mute stuff. So this is all they're all currently on right now. These green lights means that they're making sound go through, and you can turn them off like that, and now see that you can't hear the claps. And also you can right click on this and do solo, so all you hear is the claps. You can just do this on any instrument, and to just turn off solo you just click it twice so it unchecks, or you can just manually go through them. And so this is channel panning. So on your microphone, you can hear on your headphones, you can hear that the kicks are going to be to the left ear, the claps are going to be on the right ear, which could really annoy you, but I'm only going to do that once in this one. This is the volume. It's always set at around like 75%, I think. I'm not really sure. And you should leave it at 75%. You should never go to max because it always messes up with the other sounds and it kind of messes everything up. So I can make the kicks, I'm going to leave the kicks up and turn the claps down. See, and that's pretty much it for this. In swing, I'm not quite sure about it, but I think if you know more about this, then it can be useful, I guess. And so here on piano roll, so you right click on one of these instruments and you can do piano roll, rename, or color, which is the same as that one. I'm not going to get into that. Set icon you can do, which I find kind of useless because I always rename it. Load sample, I'm not really sure. Edit, you could just do some stuff. Fill in each 2 steps. This is kind of useful. See, like, it's just like kind of convenience because you could just manually go in and left click and do every single one of these, or you could just do each 8 steps. Yeah, you get it. So next is insert. Insert is very useful. I use this all the time. So what you do, so just so you know, normally you would have a lot more plugins in here, but I just turn them all off. Like you can just turn them off like that and it won't appear. I would first go through them and see which ones you like and which ones you don't like, because the ones that I didn't like I never really used, so I made it easier for myself to look through these. So I mainly use 3OSC, Boo Bass, FL Keys, FL Studio, Fruity Dance I don't even use, I don't know why that's there, Massive, Nexus, and Citrus. So Massive and Nexus are not normally from FL Studio, but I got them because I bought them, and I dragged them into the image line thing, which you can find in many other videos on stuff. So I'm not going to get into that, but I'm going to choose Citrus for now. And so what you do, I just inserted Citrus. So I did Citrus insert, and then it appeared right here. And then now, you can tell that I have this new instrument here. And so Citrus is weird. You can click on this thing, this button right here, and there, you can go to presets, and there's tons of presets, like that. Or you can make your own sound, and to do that you have to go to default, which is here, and these are the ones that I've just made myself, so don't judge me on the names, they're kind of weird. And then default is a basic sound wave, and you can mess with this and go like that, but I don't really feel like explaining that in this video, because this is a video about the basic overview on FL Studio, not Citrus. So once I have this, I'm going to change the sound, that sounds really annoying, so just slightly like that. So now I'm going to go to a different pattern just for like the sake of explaining it. So here I have this. You can just scroll up and down just so you know, just scroll through these. You go to default and then you right click and go to piano roll. And now I'm in the piano roll, which is also accessed by right there, but it's easier if you just go like that. So here, C is the middle position, which you want to kind of focus on, unless you're like in a different key, of course. But C is like the center. So if you go to the top, it's at like B10, which right above that would be like C11. And then down here is C0. So C is the center of this. Where am I? Yeah. I'm going to make like a quick chord right there. And then what you want to do for this, I typically go to just line snapping because it's kind of easier. And I'm not trying to make like any good songs here, so my chords are going to sound pretty bad. And so here in piano roll, I'm going to move on to this next because we are kind of done with the pattern place. And so in the piano roll, there's lots of stuff you can do here. So first of all, you can make chords, as you know. And your piano roll might also look like this, and you can change that if you click on this icon right here between them. I typically go to this because I like this one easier. I mean, I like this one better. And this, you can also change the color of the notes that you have, which I don't really use that often because it kind of takes a while. And so here, slide note, yeah, let's move on to this. And just so you know, these things are pretty much the exact same. They're like kind of slightly different. You can just mess around with those. And so slide notes, these only work on native FL Studio plugins, so it would not work for Massive and Nexus because those are not by FL Studio. So slide notes right there. It takes the basic chord or whatever it's at, and it slides up to this on this amount of time. So I actually had a lot of trouble on this on like finding videos. So here, it does nothing by itself, but it needs something to slide on. So, and I can also make this go faster if I shorten it. See, this whole thing is basically like a line going upwards from this note to this note, and this is the end. So now it's at D at this whole section right there. So that's what you want for that. And then next up is portamento. This kind of just adds a portamento thing. I don't really know what that means, but it sounds kind of cool. And this one does not have to have another note on it. It can just be alone. This melody actually sounds kind of cool, but I don't like this chord down here, so whatever. So moving on. Once I have this one, I can either go back to this, and then I have pattern drums and then pattern 2, and I can combine these by going like that. And this plays everything down, so I can have like tons of different stuff right there, but I don't really feel like it. Yeah, this sounds pretty bad right now, but that's because I'm not really trying. I'm just trying to explain some stuff. So, whoops. So next up, since we covered the piano roll, we can go to this thing, which is this whole thing right here. So here, you do not really need, I guess you could do find like kick. I don't know. I haven't really used this. And this shows up with everything that has the word kick in it. And to go to this, you can just press the up, which collapses everything, which is pretty useful so you don't get all cluttered and disorganized. And these are the ones that I have in FL Studio right now. You might have some slightly different ones. This is, I guess, current project. I don't really know. Just ignore most of these unless you want to get further into it. You can just mess around. And then you can go to impulses. These are pretty useful. These are just samples for like various sort of things like that. That kind of white noise like drops. I use these kind of frequently for like sweeps and stuff. And so misc is, I don't know. I don't use misc. Packs are very useful. This is like where I get all my drums. So for packs, oh yeah, if it ever gets like this is because it's filtering out only audio clips, which I don't want. I want to go to all. And so as you see, this is here. But so if you have a thing that you want, say a symbol, I'll go to a different pattern. So I have a symbol right here. You can either, see, like you can drag this thing right there. So you have, so if you find like a file that you want, you can just drag it into the pattern thing, and then you can mess with it there as if it's like its own instrument, like one of these default drum things. And if you want, you can just delete these. So just delete. Okay, yeah. And also, so clone, it just clones it. Now you can do like various ones, like, I don't know, if you want to put effects on one but not the other. And then, yeah, replace just replaces it instead of like inserting another one. See, what did I just click? I clicked on massive, darn it. This might slow up my computer for a bit there. But yeah, not massive right now. Yeah, so if you have a thing here, I'll get into this now because this is kind of important. So I'm sorry, I got kind of, actually no, I'll finish this. So I got kind of distracted here. So you have various hats, everything. You can just like go through, pick whichever drums you want for your patterns. And then there's also pretty much no limit on however many instruments you can have at once in this. You can just scroll for like ages. And also one thing kind of useful, that is also kind of bad if you missed, like, is here I have my 707 crash. And if I want to have like a snare here, instead of dragging that to that and replacing it, or dragging it to a new one, I can click down on my middle scroll wheel and it just instantly replaces it. Like, this is really fast. Say I have like a kick pattern right here, like that. And also one quick tip, if you put snares on top of your kicks, it sounds pretty good. That snare doesn't sound the best. See, that's kind of cool. And you can just mess around with like pretty much, I don't know, just make a sound, I guess. I don't know. And those are the drums. Instruments I would not use because these instruments are not very like customizable, I guess. I don't know. Legacy, these are just kind of coolish sounding drums. And here's a snap, which sounds really cool for like house songs. I don't know. I had some trouble finding a snap, and and my friend showed it to me, and I thought that was pretty cool. And FX, kind of cool. Let's see, loops. So these loops sound very slow here, but they match to your tempo once you drag them in here. See? And you can just shorten them by dragging it like that. Whoa, I messed up. So I think, yeah, that's it. Control right click zooms in a lot, and I get really annoyed at that. So if that ever happens, just go to this thing, and this thing also changes the size of that in case you ever like mess up and like your eyes like are dying. So that's the loops, shapes, vocals, various things. I don't know, speech, kind of weird.
Electro moves, it moves you.
Yeah, that. So I'm done with this now, so exit out. And what was I doing earlier? So, oh yeah, so this thing. I have a snare clap here, and just so you know, if you didn't know, you can use the keys on your keyboard as like a, on your typing keyboard as like a piano keyboard. See, like Q is C, and then, I don't know, it just like goes up as you go right, and there's also like various notes and such. So I always use that for like seeing how sounds sound, I guess. So you double click on, you just click on this one so it opens up. And then once I'm here, I can adjust the pan, which is also, if you look right here, it's adjusting that pan, whoops, and the volume, see? And you can just right click and do reset. And so pitch, it's currently at 2 octaves if you look at that one too. Now it's at 1 octave, so you can go up, or you can go to 4 and 8 octaves. And also you can do FX and choose which channel you want, but there's a much better way to do that so you don't get all disorganized. And you can ignore most of these unless you want to get more in depth. Time stretching is kind of cool. So it currently sounds like this. You can drag the pitch down. That sounds kind of cool. Yep, you can just mess with all this stuff. Whoops. Yeah, so these are like kind of hard to make it sound what you want to have it sound like. And also if you ever want to have like a speech vocal and you're like time stretching the vocal down to like whatever tempo you want, I would do Pro Default. Even though it takes a while to load, Pro Default makes it sound pretty good. So next up is this thing I use on almost all my drums. You can like adjust the in, the out, the pogo, don't know what that is, the CRF, and the trim. So in, if you look at the wave, it's like the start of the wave, see? It makes it kind of like a weird sound. And the out makes it sound more clean, so there's not all that trail afterwards. And pogo, that makes it sound pretty cool, I guess. CRF makes it repeat, which is pretty weird. See, if you hold it down, it's doing that repeat part, but if you just click it once, then it doesn't. Trim just trims it based on the out. See, this is untrimmed, this is trimmed. It just changes like the shape of the wave. It doesn't do much various sound things. So remove DC offset, I don't know what that means. Normalize, don't use that often. Reverse is kind of useful. It reverses the wave. So if you have like a reverse wave here, and you're wondering like on this, how do I get this to like match up? If you want to have it like boom, boom, like that, like to kind of like lead into that second kick. So what you do, you can drag this onto the playlist thing. See, and it made it set, and it kind of cloned it, I guess, because it doesn't want to do that. So you can just click reverse again, and here I have this. Whoops. I always click that control right click and it gets really annoying after a while. So yeah, that's how you reverse stuff. And then you can do reverse polarity, which just kind of flips it upside down. Doesn't really change much of the volume or the sounds. Fade stereo or stop stereo. You can mess with that. And then next up is the master channel. This is pretty important. And then, so the master channel, I have a kick right here. You can, what I did, actually no, this kick is already default set to the FX. So what you want to do is like, if you don't want to have conflicting stuff, I would just delete all your kicks and drums like right off the bat. And then once you have one, see this is at 0 FX, or dash not 0. It's currently linked up just to the master. And then you can go to insert one, and then here, this is all kind of random stuff. The only useful things here, I personally think, are link selected channels to this track and rename. And so what you want to do, you have the kick selected right there. You go to the master channel, you click on whichever channel you want. So I'm going to do 1. You linked it to this channel, and now this kick goes to this channel, and then it goes to this channel, which is the master, and the master just goes straight out. And I would not put anything on the master except for the limiter and whatever stuff you have on, because the limiter helps it sound louder, and it prevents like your speakers from blowing out and stuff. So I have the kick here. Now this is another panning thing, separate from the one there. And oh yeah, if you're wondering, yours probably looks different than mine. See, yours probably looks like this. I personally use view waveforms just so I can see like where it's panning and stuff, and I just like the look of it better. These are just also some random other stuff. Don't worry about that, or unless you want to explore it, of course. You can also solo this just by right-clicking, simply put it. And the master never gets soloed because it's the master and how it gets out. Unless you left-click, you can left-click and just turn off the individual ones. So kicks, this is the stereo separation. If you hear it, it sounds really wide. Now it sounds very like thin and compressed. It's in mono, and this is completely separated. And this is reverse polarity, which you can do again if you want. Swap left and right channels. Whoops. See, I'm fading to the left, but it's actually fading to the right because it's swapped. Now it's left. So this is being sent to the master channel. If you look, see down here, this is currently on the master, and the kick is being threaded using this thing. This is the send, so it's being sent from here to there, and this is the amount of kick that is being sent, or the amount of channel 1 that's being sent to the master. So you can turn that down, and you can hear the kick volume goes down, but it's still loud in this because it hasn't crossed through this yet. So next, if you want to do, say you want to put it through here, you want to go through channel 2 and then to 1. You can turn this one off so it doesn't go to anything right now. It's just stuck in this one, like in limbo, I guess. And then now it's going through channel 2, which is bringing it to the master. See, it's going from this to this to this, which is useful if you get full mixer plugins. I mean, full mixer effects. But let's not do that for now because we're not going to get full. This is another volume bar, which you can just drag, and I'll show you how to do some of the effects now. So you can click on this thing, and this selects the effects. And if you click on this, it brings up this document thing, which is very annoying because I often misclick on that by like a slight like pixel movement, I don't know. And then here is where you select your things. So here are all the ones that you should have, except for like Sausage Fattener and Bit Crusher, because I got those by myself. I don't really use Sausage Fattener at all. I mainly use Bit Crusher, and also Glitch I got myself. And so here, let's just use a delay. See, that sounds a lot different now. This is just without it. And again, you can just solo this if you want. And this is the amount, the volume of this, see? I'm just messing around with there. And the delay, you can mess with this if you want, but I'm not going to get into the plugins because that would make this video super long, longer than it already is because it's already pretty long. A chorus sounds better on an instrument than a kick, just so you know. And so I'll just show you how to do this to show more of an effect. So I just linked the default citrus sound to that. I'm going to put a chorus on it. Sounds kind of crazy. And then a flanger and a phaser. And then, what else? Let's just put a sound disorganizer on there. See, that made it really loud. Sound disorganizer, it's dangerous. It makes your sounds louder and kind of better, sometimes depending on the sound, but it makes your sounds very generic and kind of like super compressed, and it loses most of like the original value. And then parametric EQ is very useful. You can adjust the various tones, so like I can cancel out all the middle tones. So it's just the high. And if you want, you can just click on this and then do default. And also a very useful thing is reverb. That thing afterwards. I'm just going through all these effects just in case like you're wondering which ones you should use. Delay I already showed you. Next I'm going to show you something in a second which I just thought of. So not much here. I guess Vocodecks I'll show you. This makes everything sound really weird. And you could do old school. But if you look, it's only on this, stuck on this note, and I don't really know how to change it, but I don't really feel like it because I hardly even use this effect at all. So yeah, we can just, oh yeah, if you want to get rid of one, you can just replace and then replace with none. It's kind of a pain. I mean, it's not that easy to do. Well, it should be easier, but I mean, it should be quicker. That's what I'm talking about. It is pretty easy. So once you have this, say you want to have the pitch go up on this note. So this is the channel settings for the default. It's just smaller because it already has a whole plugin customization thing right there and not for drums. So for drums this will show up. So on default you can do right click on this, and I'm going to show you about automation clips, which is very important in FL Studio. Like I use them all the time for almost every song. So create automation clip. If you look at this, I'll mute the drums and everything just so you can hear this. And currently that's just at basic pitch, and this you can drag this and make this one bigger if you want to. So I'm going to copy this value, so right click and copy value, so it's at currently 50%. So 50% is balanced for the pitch. Any lower, and that makes it higher. You can also go like that, kind of crazy. Hold on a second, I'm going to do something really fast. Whoa. Alright, Control Z is undo. I use that very often. It's a very important thing in FL Studio. So Control Z is undo. It only, oh yeah, so Control Z only undoes one step in ahead. See, like I put that there, Control Z. It just repeats one step. To find the more undos, you right click on the undo history, and you can see that undid like a whole ton of stuff. You can just, this is your furthest back undo that it records. It only records like 20, so be careful with your stuff. Or you could also change the history, but I mean change the limit. But I forgot how to do that. I'm not gonna really worry about that. So I'm gonna leave it at that just for like the sake of the video. Alright, Control P is paste, Control C is copy. Yes, and Control C is copy. Remember, Control left click is select. One thing useful is Control B, it clones whatever you have selected, so you can just clone that. And that just, I don't know, clones it, I guess. It's really easy, but one thing you have to be careful of. Alright, Control Alt Z is how you undo more at a time. I forgot about that. So Control Alt Z undoes more than one thing at a time. So Control Z just repeats it. Control Alt Z does more stuff. And so for this, you want to be careful. If you have this stuck out like one, because this will control everything, and it'll paste it on the back of the last note here. So see, it gets offbeat a little bit. So I'm gonna unmute everything. Oh, one thing we need to do is take off this clap because the clap sounds really bad. So Control A is highlights everything. Control A highlights everything there, and then delete just deletes it. Control D is unselect. Yeah, that's useful. So Control D is unselect. Control S is save. I think you should know that, but I haven't messed with that yet. Well, I mean, I've messed with it, but I haven't done this on this track yet, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Control N makes a new version of your file. If you look, I'm not going to show you, but because I don't really feel like it. But Control N, say you have like your file is called like song. It'll make song_1 if you press Control N, and then if you press it again, it'll be song_2, and it just keeps on repeating the files over and over. I'm gonna put that back to 50%. So I have this now, and I guess I'm gonna do something with the default. So Fruity free filter, yeah, this is pretty useful. So there's also Fruity filter, but the free filter is just kind of faster. So what you want to do, Q to 1, is that Q3 kind of distorts the sound a bit. At the moment it's already distorted because it's on a low pass filter. So a low pass filter, at this it's only playing stuff 10 Hertz and below, which for the default there's nothing 10 Hertz and below. At this there's some, and then at below 1600 there's everything below pretty much. So that's the max. Like this is back to normal. And so Q you do not want to mess with. And this you could do a create an automation clip, so it fades it, I guess, upwards. Here, I'll demonstrate what this sounds like. Yeah, so that's that. There's also high pass filters, which just does everything like above that certain point. So it only like plays stuff that's above 5,493 hertz. Gain you want to leave at normal, of course. Q, if you want to hear what it sounds like at max listen, it just adds a whole ton of effects and such. So that's pretty much it for this video, and I am probably missing something out, but you can just try to figure it out by yourself. I would not use this part. I don't know. I think that's it. And goodbye, and thanks for watching if you made it this far.